Okay, we're going to tie a tried and true fly. It was actually originally designed to imitate a crawdad, but in the meantime, it turned out to be such a great fly, great action, that almost, I'd say a very large percentage of big fish are caught on this fly. So it's a pretty simple fly to tie. We start out, we have some hackle. Okay, it's a soft woolly bugger type hackle, saddle hackle. We have some Marabou, which is extremely soft and waves in the water. We have some chenille, some wire, and some hooks. We're working with the size 10 hook here. So the first thing we tie on is going to be some Marabou. So we're going to take a piece of Marabou, and most people are tempted to just take like the end of the Marabou and tie it on. Don't do that, okay? There is a little stiff piece in the end that will not let it work real good. So basically what we want to do is we want to come down this feather a little bit, and we want to strip off a little bit of Marabou, okay? That's probably way too much, but it'll work. And the Marabou is going to be the length of the shank of the hook. So I keep pulling it back, and it turns out there's not too much. So I'm going to take that, and I'm going to start tying that down right on top of the hook. And because it is so long, you can just cut it off, get it out of your way, or just break it off. Now, if you make the tail, let's say you make the tail just a little bit too long, don't worry about it. Okay. Now, the next thing that ties on is when we're wrapping things up the hook. The last thing wrapped is going to be our rib. And so basically, you're going to take a piece of copper wire. It's going to be our rib. And that's going to be tied on, because that's the last thing wrapped. Okay, so right here. Now, mind you, so we didn't get a big buildup. The first wrap was up. Well, the first wrap was coating the shank of the hook. The next flat wrap is up, putting the Marabou on. Okay, and now we're wrapping back right to the same point. Okay, to tie our wire in. Now the next thing we're going to put on the hook, let's see, get the chenille loose. So we're going to put the chenille on before we wrap the hackle. So chenille's kind of interesting. Take yourself a good piece of it, and all you got to do is kind of start pulling on the end, and you'll end up with a couple of pieces of thread or whatever hanging out at center core. And you can take that and you can start wrapping that in. So you don't want to wrap the chenille because that would build up too much, you know. So you just take the center core and you wrap that down. Okay. So I got the chenille, wire, okay, Now we got our hackle. And I'm gonna pick a piece of hackle. I like the barred stuff, but you know, gonna pick a piece of hackle. For this size, 4 to 6 inches for a size 10 hook. And if you'll notice, this is kind of hackle here, and then it gets real soft here. And you want some of this real soft stuff at the front of your fly, but not too much. So I can tear off some of this just so it's out of my way, okay? Now, if you look, this feather curves this way. Has that curve to it? Okay. So when you wrap it, you want the curve kind of down because you want the hackle to face backwards. Okay. So I'm just going to take and lay this in. So I got up to about here. Okay. And then I'm going to pull back the hackle beyond that point. If you can see it, you know, so I'm going to finish tying this in. And I don't want to tie too much stuff down. Okay. So, I did this wrong. I should have put the hackle in before the chenille, but that's okay. First thing I'm going to wrap is a chenille anyway, and it will fit in here real easy. And so you want to put that in one wrap before the next, up until the front of the hook, and you're going to tie it off. Make sure you leave yourself about a half of eyelet at the end of the hook, so you're going to have room to finish the fly. So, and that should be plenty close right there. Now we're back on schedule, and I got this hackle. And the hackle, I'm not worried about it. Just gonna tie it in. And it can just kind of press down the chenille. Now I'm getting to that real fluffy stuff. And I'm going to have a couple, a turn of it's enough. Two, and then two behind, one in front, one behind, and you're ready to cut it. Okay, now, because I wrap that way, I'm gonna back wrap with my rib. We've done this before. And so as you go through the hackle, all you do is you move the rib back and forth. Okay, and if you move it a whole lot back and forth, you're gonna tie very little of that hackle down. And 1, 2, in front, and back behind. And I'm just going to pull that back while I whip finish it. Cut my thread and helicopter my wire. It will eventually break. so do I, but that's, you know. So that's one way to tie this fly. Now, it's not my preferred way. Okay, I'm going to show you another way to tie this fly. So let's set that one aside. And that's pretty dense. But you put that in the water and you start stripping it and everything starts moving. It drives the fish nuts. Okay, so this, start our thread. Grab myself a Marabou feather. Find a good section of it. Strip off a bunch. Okay. Measure it out. Remember, I can make it a little long, that's not a problem. Okay. Show you on this one how to shorten your Marabou up. Okay, you can take your Marabou just like that and just tear it off. Now, the reason you don't want it too long is fish will strike at it and they'll short strike your fly. So if you're fishing and you got a shank's length and they're short striking, you know what? Don't worry about it. Break it off a little bit. There's nothing that says it has to be a certain length. But it does, you know, you want it there some because it does get the fish's attention. That's for sure. Okay. And I'm going to tie the wire in. Okay. Instead of tying anything else, I'm going to tie my chenille in. But I have a piece still. Strip that down. Okay. Now just start tying it down. Okay, now I look for a nice skinny piece of hackle. There's a nice piece right there. And I want just a little bit of that fluffy stuff. So I just pull it off like that. When I wrap it, I want it facing back. And so I'm going to go ahead and just tie this in. That is enough. I'm going to cut it off and wrap back up to the front. Then you wrap your chenille. About right there. Done with the chenille. Now you can go ahead and wrap your hackle. So you got the big fluffy stuff there, and now you got your shorter stuff here. This technique works really good when you're trying to tie in really large ones. Okay. Now, we back wrap before, but if we fore wrap, it'll be across this feather. And so this feather, we start with fore wrapping. Trim my nails, I should never did that. There you go, 2 woolly buggers. This one, it goes in the left hand. Because that's a different method, but it works out a lot better.